You just got hit on your bike. You're shaken up, you're in pain, and now you have to decide what to do next. And in those next few minutes, one wrong decision could destroy your injury claim, or worse, get you charged with a crime.
We're Chris Blackburn and Chad Romey, personal injury lawyers with over 20 years of litigation experience handling motorcycle cases. This video is going to walk you through the 5 common mistakes that can derail your motorcycle case, even when it wasn't your fault. Let's dive in.
So you don't lose out on motorcycle repair, medical bills, or your ability to make a claim just because you said the wrong thing or left the scene too soon. 5 common mistakes. The first one is
don't leave the accident scene too early, no matter what. This might seem pretty obvious, but we've had plenty of the cases where not only the defendant leaves, but our own clients leave.
This one, when we first started talking about this one does seem very obvious. Most folks aren't in a position after a motorcycle accident to leave the scene. They're injured. The last thing they're thinking about is leaving. Leaving the scene sends the wrong message. First of all, when I have a client tell me that the other party left the scene, I never assume it was for good reasons. I've never thought, well, gosh, they probably were on their way home to get the casserole out of the oven. Right? They were probably going to the orphanage to donate a couple of kidneys. And if everyone ever tells you they're going to donate a couple of kidneys, that's one too many. If they tell you they're donating 3 kidneys, none of them are probably their own. It's true. The more kidneys somebody's donating, the more questions you should be asking. There are all sorts of reasons people would leave the scene, and usually none of them are good. The assumption is that there was alcohol involved, and I had to get out of there, or I didn't have insurance, or the accident was my fault, or I didn't have a license. But none of them are good. And on top of that, leaving the scene many times can be a crime. So you certainly do not want to leave the scene of an automobile accident or a motorcycle accident.
Absolutely. I haven't represented a client who has actually left the scene, but I've had several cases over the years where the defendant has left the scene and criminal charges have been filed against them. It gets a little more serious when there is bodily injury attached to that. One such example, I represented a young man on an ATV accident. In this particular case, what sticks out to me on this one was it was late at night. Visibility was an issue. And in short, he stopped in the intersection and was rear-ended by another vehicle. That person was scared. Alcohol was a factor in that particular case. And she left the scene, backed up and left. We were able to find her and identify her later. Criminal charges were pending against her. But what stuck out in that particular case was when she testified later on in the case, she got out. She literally stepped out of her car, walked over my client, noticed he was injured and got scared. And she had a lot of criminal charges that were pending against her. And we used that as leverage in the case to help find justice for our client.
That's a good story.
Yeah, thank you.
Second mistake you want to avoid following a motorcycle crash. Don't fail to call 911.
I'll jump in here. This is a huge one. So most of the cases that we have that we fight about in terms of liability are the cases where our clients have come to us too late and they've forgotten to call 911. So they're in this wreck. It's not their fault. And maybe it's a minor case. Maybe it's a minor collision. They just think, oh, I'll just handle it with the other party. You always want to call 911 just to document it. It's going to help you. The documentation can be used in your case to establish liability against the other defendant.
And it seems obvious, but there's going to be times where you get in an accident and the other party is going to pressure you into not calling 911. Hey, it's minor. Let's trade information. Don't worry, I'm going to take care of everything. I'll pay for your medical bills. My cousin fixes cars. I can have him fix your car. Even for minor collisions, it is never a good idea because stories change when people leave the scene. And you do want that documentation.
The big thing there is without a police report, it really becomes your word against the other person's word. And those are the cases that we fight. Those are the cases that are tough. when we have a police report, police officer comes and the officer gets statements. And when you try cases, the officer can basically read from the police report. Police report's admissible at trial, but the police officer, can take that police report to refresh his memory and read what was said by the parties. So that's probably a huge factor in all cases, especially motorcycle cases.
Yeah. When the police officer shows up at the scene, they're gathering evidence while it still exists. If there is no scene to be examined by the police officer, they're not seeing that evidence. And so let them get there, take photographs, take statements. The third mistake to avoid following a motorcycle collision.
Get medical attention. Even if you feel fine, you're going to want to get checked out. The main reason there, again, it's documentation. You are seeing a doctor. You're going to the hospital. You're being transported by an ambulance. There will then be documentation that will help substantiate your case. What you don't want to do is not get treatment for a long period of time. You want to talk about gaps a little bit?
Yeah, well, and I think that maybe to clarify one of your points about you don't have to get in an ambulance, right?
No.
You don't have to get in the ambulance. And frankly, sometimes people go home from an accident and they feel fine. And I don't think either of us are proponents of getting treatment if you don't need it, but we're certainly proponents of you need to be seen by a medical professional sooner rather than later if you're having pain. The last thing you want to do is grin and bear it, which is a noble thing that people try to do. But if you're grinning and bearing it for 6 months and then you go to the doctor for the first time 6 months later saying, gosh, I was hoping this would get better. It just never did. And here I am. Well, now you've got a 6-month gap in your treatment that the insurance company points the finger at and says, you know what? Either you weren't that hurt during that time or you got hurt doing something else, or gosh, maybe you would have gotten better if you would have just treated. And those are all very, very good defenses for insurance companies.
Absolutely. Same thing. The tougher cases, no police report, he said, she said, or lack of treatment gaps in treatment as well. So you got anything else to talk about that one?
No. The fourth mistake that you want to avoid is admitting fault or apologizing at the scene. Sometimes it just seems very polite to say, I'm so sorry. I've had clients apologize at the scene for running into somebody that ran a red light, right? They're just being nice to that other person, saying, I'm sorry that this happened. But if you apologize, and this is going to sound weird, if you apologize in the wrong way, that's admissible in front of a court, in front of a judge and a jury, and they're going to hear, well, why did you say sorry if it wasn't your fault?
Yeah, to touch on that. So let's say you do the right thing. You do call the cops. They come. You're talking to the officer, and you just casually mention that you were distracted or you were sorry that this happened. That officer can write down in the narrative section what you said. And again, from a trial perspective, the officer can testify and read what he wrote down. So never, ever say anything that could put you in a position where it could be construed as an admission of liability.
With the main points being when you speak to the police officer at the scene or you speak to the other party at the scene, you're sticking to the facts. You're not adding things in like, oh, I'm so sorry, or I didn't see you. You don't want any of your words to be taken out of context and used against you to try to prove that you did something or acted in a way that didn't happen. Because in Indiana, we have what's called comparative fault. If you say something that says, well, gosh, even if you weren't at fault at all, but maybe the way you worded it now makes it sound like you are partially at fault. If a jury thinks you're 10 or 20 or 30% at fault, that's 10 or 20 or 30% less of a recovery that you're going to make. So just be real careful what you're saying at the scene.
All right, the last mistake to avoid is you don't want to try this on your own. You need a lawyer to help you. And this is something that we're well versed in. Insurance companies are going to try to sell quickly. They're sneaky about how they will do this. They'll send you contracts promising money as long as you sign really quick on your phone.
A new strategy right now is they'll say, hey, we'll give you some money in your pocket, and don't worry, we'll cover your medical bills going forward. And sometimes a large amount. We'll pay for $15,000 worth of medical bills going forward. But you just have to sign right now.
Yep.
Well, you're going to pay. They're going to pay for those anyway, right? So if you have treatment that's related and it's their fault, they're going to pay for it. So
absolutely.
yeah, you get the lawyer involved early, and the lawyer might tell you you don't need a lawyer. You're having a consultation. But the key is the earlier you talk to the lawyer, the earlier that person can then try to gather the evidence while it still exists.
Oh, absolutely. The insurance companies also will try to get your statement and they'll record that. You could say something that you have no idea hurts your case. So talk to a lawyer. Most lawyers are going to talk to you for free and set up an initial consultation. We do that all the time. We've talked to multiple people multiple times, and they haven't become our client. That's just what we do. We want to arm the general public on the insurance company's tactics.
Yeah, so don't go it alone. 5 things you need to remember following a motorcycle case, 5 mistakes to avoid is don't leave the scene. Call 911. Get the medical treatment that you need. Don't admit fault. And at least consult with a lawyer. If you avoid these mistakes, you're already way ahead of the game when it comes to protecting your health, your wallet, and your legal rights. Thank you so much for watching. If this is your first time here and want to learn more, click on the links below for more resources and answers. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe and share with all your friends.